Hi Lucas, this is a piece of music I heard your grandfather play many a time. Welcome to part 1. In this part we'll be unpacking the kit to make sure all the pieces are present and having our first look at the instructions. The first thing I did was to cut the box up, and I've just kept the panelling and decaling guide. I also binned the paints that are quite useless. The paintbrushes, however, are pretty good, and you should have received, among other bits and pieces, some tins of enamel paint that replace the paint that have been binned. The kit comes in 4 grey plastic runners or sprues and 1 clear attaching the canopy, etc. All of the pieces appear to be present and firmly fixed to the runner. Now we turn to the tools that will help you make your model. I think I've supplied you with some of these items, but you might have to turn to your mum and dad to see if they've got other bits and pieces that come in handy, a nail file or a sharp knife. I actually use a scalpel with a small rounded blade, but I think that I'd not be too popular with your parents if I'd included it in the goodie bag, as scalpels are exceedingly sharp and dangerous when used by the untrained. All of these items will become self-explanatory as we start modelling. The instructions now. The front page comes with a warning and some information on the aircraft type. For example, how long it was in service. Your question, Lucas. 1988 takeaway 1960 meant that it was in service for 28 years. The next 3 pages contain information on health and safety and the importance of initial adult supervision. Also, there are standard assembly instructions and what they call assembly icon instructions. You'll see these symbols throughout the instruction guide, so take note. There are 5 main stages in construction: cutting, sanding, fitting, gluing, and joining. There are also a couple of stages that you may have to go through after gluing and joining, and that's carefully cleaning away any excess of glue and any gaps that may be needed to be filled between the joint. Let's go through those stages in a bit more detail. First of all, cutting off the sprue. You need to take your snippers and cut as close as you can to the part so that you're not left with too much excess sprue on the part after it's been cut away. This task is quite easy with large parts, but may be attached in 4 or 5 places. Be very careful, however, with smaller, more delicate parts, as the cutting action may stress the part to bending or even snapping. So with those parts, use the very end of the snippers so that any deflection or bending is minimized. It's important that you only cut off parts off the sprue that you will immediately work on to fit to other parts. Otherwise, smaller parts could easily get misplaced. Next is sanding. Sand off any excess sprue remaining or any other excess plastic. Sometimes the plastic squirts from the mold during manufacture. It's known as flashing and is characterized by a thin film of plastic running along the molding edge. I might have included some sanding files in your pack, but if I didn't, ask your mum if she has something that you can use. I quite often use a scalpel for this, but as I say, you may be able to do that once you've built up some experience. Before gluing, it's important to dry fit the parts together to make sure that there are no snags. Generally there aren't, but sometimes you may need to do a bit more sanding. Then you can take the plunge and use some glue. There are many types of glue and dispenser for applying glue. The most basic is the tube of glue that came with the kit, or to give it its correct name, polystyrene cement. Never use the horrid stuff, just throw the tube away. I think I supplied you with a contact glue that has a very fine metal tube. Use this for gluing all the parts of your kit apart from the clear plastic parts. There are other glues that I'll explain in a later video. When you gently press the body of the glue dispenser, the liquid glue should come out the end of the tube. Have a couple of goes on a piece of paper to find out how much pressure you need to apply to get just the right amount of glue out of the end without it flooding and potentially spoiling the parts that you want to glue. Gluing large parts is a lot easier than gluing smaller parts together. So start by gluing stage 15 parts, the starboard wing halves, A1 and D11 together. Remember, cut, sand, fit, glue and join. Then go to stage 18 and do the same process with part A8. You'll notice that you have an option to fit the flap straight or at 45 degrees. Your choice. The port wing offers a bit of a snag. You'll have to make 2 holes. The holes are already indented in part A2, but you'll need to either drill or somehow punch through the plastic. Ask your dad if he has anything that could help with this. Once done, do stages 16 and 17. Now that you've glued the bigger pieces together, you should have fathomed out the pressures required to fit stages 1 to 4 of the instructions. You will have noticed that there are painting and decaling instructions in stages 1 to 4, but there's no need to think about painting or decaling until all the parts in stages 1 to 4 are put together. There are 3 exceptions, however. Leave the pilot, part B30, the joystick, part C19, and the control panel, part A3, on the sprue until the next video. Good luck, and I'll leave you with another piece of music that your granddad used to play.